Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Michael Fabiano here from Sports Illustrated Fantasy, and we're here to talk about the waiver wire heading into Week 7. To get help with the best players to add, here's Jen Piacenti, our pal from SI Fantasy and Betting. Jen, let's start off at the quarterback position. I would argue that this position is the thinnest it's been in over a decade from a fantasy perspective, but there are some players we could potentially go out and get, including Matt Ryan.
It is the thinnest that it's been in a long time, and now we have bye weeks playing into it, so you can't start Jalen Hurts, you can't start Josh Allen, but you can start Matt Ryan. I know it sounds crazy, but he actually finishes the QB2 for last week with over 27 fantasy points, 389 yards, 3 touchdowns, and a 72.4% completion rate. Now, the Titans have allowed the third most points to opposing quarterbacks, and we know that Matt Ryan has thrown for 300 or more yards 3 times this year, including 356 and 2 touchdowns last time these two faced off. So I think it's okay to trust Matt Ryan. We know what we're going to get. We're going to get up weeks, we're going to get down weeks, but this is a week to bet on Matt Ryan when there's not a lot of options out there due to bye weeks.
Yeah, Daniel Jones could be floating around out there as well. Jimmy Garoppolo's got a good matchup against Kansas City. And yeah, Taylor hit him with the Heineke, is back on the fantasy radar with Carson Wentz injured. Let's move on to the running back position. You want to talk about thin? This position is very thin on the waiver wire. Who should we target?
It's incredibly thin. Now listen, we have an entire list of players over at si.com/fantasy, so we're just going to talk about one here, but please go check out that list for every position. I'm going to talk about KENYAN Drake today. It sounds so bizarre, but you know, J.K. Dobbins left early with a knee injury, and Justice Hill is still dealing with a hamstring issue, so assuming one or both of them can't go, it looks like Drake is the guy. He had 119 yards, 2 catches, and a score on Sunday, and this week he gets to face the Cleveland Browns, who've allowed the most rushing touchdowns to opposing running backs and the 4th most fantasy points. So listen, it's a grab bag, but we're in a bye week situation. This is a guy you could count on. Of course, looking forward, you might want to add Gus Edwards, and there's a lot of other guys on the list. Be sure you check that out at si.com.
Right, that includes Deion Jackson, who was great last week but got hurt. Also, Deonta Foreman. What happens if Christian McCaffrey gets traded? He would be the number 1 guy in Carolina. And I guess you can look at Latavius Murray. I have no idea what the Broncos coaching staff is thinking with benching Melvin Gordon, but Murray got a lot of burn against the Chargers. Moving on to the wide receivers, and the Cardinals have some changes upcoming for their matchup against New Orleans.
So we know now that Hollywood Brown is going to miss quite a few weeks with a foot injury, but Rondale Moore is someone that's kind of been interesting for the last couple weeks now. He's played a career high in snaps the past 3 weeks in a row, and he's had more than 20% of the targets for the past 2 weeks in a row. Now listen, his average depth of target is only 2.8 yards, but his yak ability, that's the yards after catch, is incredible, and he's a gadget player too. So we know that the Cardinals are probably going to have to get creative. They're playing from behind a lot. He should get a lot of targets. He tied with Ertz this week for a team high of targets with 10. Now, you've probably also heard that they made a trade for Robbie Anderson. Listen, if you want to take a shot on Robbie Anderson, okay, but please don't blow your fab budget. Could he be a big play threat? Absolutely. But remember, DeAndre Hopkins comes back this week. And also, are we really sure that Robbie Anderson is someone we trust on our fantasy team? A lot of people think maybe he's not quite right. That being said, maybe Robbie is the only sane one because he was the only one saying, hey, there's something wrong with this offense. Somebody else in Carolina should notice that too.
And also, Wan'Dale Robinson scored a touchdown last week in his NFL debut. Zay Jones also could be floating around on some waiver wires. Finally, the tight end position. And it looks like we're back on the Hunter Henry bandwagon.
Yeah, we're on the Hunter Henry bandwagon because he's played 98% of snaps over the past 2 weeks. And of course, on Sunday, he had 61 yards and a touchdown. He was targeted 8 times. He's actually tied with Jacoby Myers for a team lead in targets for the past 2 weeks with 11. So as long as Jonnu Smith is continuing to deal with an ankle injury, I think Hunter Henry is someone you can trust. He's available in more than 50% of leagues. Of course, Robert Tonyan, Greg Dulcich, and even Daniel Bellinger could also be available on the tight end waiver wire if you really need to dig deep.
There you have it, friends. Going into Week 7, there are some options for you if you have bye week blues or maybe some injuries that you need to fill in. And of course, be sure to check out the Sports Illustrated YouTube channel where you can find all of our great fantasy and wagering content, including Stardom and Sid'em, Waiver Wire, and much more. Make sure you hit that subscribe button.